Good morning, everybody. Today is April 27th. We're in the last week of April. I want to go through with you real quick on reviewing, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. So we're going to start with adding and subtracting. When you're adding and subtracting fractions, the thing you have to remember is they have to have the same denominator. Denominator is the word on the bottom. So once you get a common denominator, then you just add or subtract your numerator. You simplify. And again, we're into our integer review, so those integer rules will still apply. So we're going to start with the first example. I'm going to do a common denominator. So if I had 8/10 and I'm subtracting 3/10, your denominator stays the same. And then you just look at the top. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5/10 can be simplified down to 1/2. Okay, so let's try another one with a common denominator. So if I have 2/3 plus 1/3, that gives me 3/3. Your denominator stays the same, and we're adding the top, and that gives me 1/2. What if I had 1/3 minus 2/3? Again, my denominator is the same, so it stays the same, and we have to subtract. 1 minus 2. This is a positive 1. And if I add the opposite, that's a -2. So that would be 1. And you keep the sign of the larger number. 2 is larger than 1, so it would be -1/3. Just throwing that in there so you make sure you use those integer rules. Now, what if we had uncommon denominators, which means your denominators are not the same? So you have to find a common, the least common multiple of those numbers. So I'm going to draw a line. To find a common denominator by finding the least common multiple, if I had 1/4 plus 2/6, my denominator is not the same, so I need to find multiples. Here's my 4, here's my 6. And 4 times 1 is 4, 8, 12, 16. We'll stop there. 6, I have 6, 12. Okay, I have a common. So this is 4 times 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to do 4 times 3. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. Here is 6 times 1, 2. So 2 times 2, because whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So this is going to be 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 2 times 2 is 4. 6 times 2 is 12. So now since I have a common denominator, the only thing I have to do, keep my denominator and do the top. 3 plus 4 is 7. So that's all you have to do when you do not have a common denominator. Make sure, if possible, you go ahead and simplify. So, to multiply fractions, let's drop another line. Okay, so multiplying fractions is real simple. We know our rule, it's top times top, bottom times bottom. The only thing here is when you do simplify, there's 2 ways you can simplify. You can simplify before you multiply or simplify after you multiply, and I'll do an example of both. So if my example is 2/3 times 1/10, top times top, bottom times bottom. 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 10 is 30. Then I have to simplify. That gives me 1/15. Now, if I were to simplify first, remember you can simplify anything on top with anything on bottom. You can't do top and top or bottom and bottom. It has to be one on top, one on bottom. So I'm going to take the same problem. So I have 2 times 1 and 3 times 10. Now remember, it can be anything on the top with anything on the bottom. Well, I know 2 can go into 10. So 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 10 5 times. So now I have 1 times 1, which is 1, and 3 times 5, which is 15. So this is simplifying after, this is simplifying first. So let's do another one. Let's do 3/4 times 1/9. 2/9. So again, 3 times 2, top times top, bottom times bottom. I'm going to simplify first. Well, I know 3 and 9 can simplify. So 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 9 3 times. But look, I can also simplify the 2 and the 4. 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 4 2 times. So now I have 1 times 1 and 2 times 3. And you're done. So now let's do dividing fractions. Dividing fractions. So we have a rule, which is the KCF. Keep, change, flip. Once we keep, change, flip, then we go right back to our multiplication rules, which is top times top and bottom times bottom. So again, with this one, you can simplify first or you can simplify after. So the first example I'm going to do is 1/10 divided by 3/4. So the KCF is keep, so I'm going to keep my 1/10. Change, I'm changing division to multiplication. And flip, I find the reciprocal of 3/4, which is 4/3. So again, now we go to top times top, bottom times bottom. I have 1 times 4. I have 10 times 3. I can simplify first. I know 2 goes into both 4 and 10. 1 times 2 is 2, and 5 times 3 is 15. And there we have it. If I did another example of, let's do 9/10 divided by negative 3/4. Keep, change, flip. Rewrite it, 9 times negative 4 over 10 times 3. Because this is negative, it only goes with one of the numbers. You don't have to put it on both. I'm going to simplify first. I know 2 goes into 4 and 10. And then I also know that 3 goes into 3 and 9. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 5 times 1 is 5. That is an improper fraction, top in, bottom out. So my answer is negative 1 and 1/5. So this is just a real quick review. I hope y'all have a great week. Bye-bye.